If you're looking at discovering the power of Mac at scale with a new insightful podcast, well, We Got Your Mac enables you to join IT and business leaders as they delve into the benefits and considerations of adopting Apple Mac's platform in your organisation. So if you're looking to gain the knowledge and confidence you need to make more informed decisions, tune into their guest expert episodes released every 2 weeks. Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and once again, we're going to be diving into the critical world of data security. But today, Kurt Markley from Apricorn is going to be talking with us. And in an era where data breaches are more and more commonplace, I want to learn more about Apricorn's approach to encrypted hard drives and flash drives as it becomes more relevant than ever. And Kurt brings a wealth of knowledge on why seasoned IT professionals are missing the mark in data backup protocols, and also how we can remedy this pervasive issue. But enough spoilers from me. Buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way stateside, where Kurt is waiting to speak with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Kurt. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Neil, for having me on. So I am the director of sales here for Apricorn. I have been with the company now for 21 years. I've been within the technology sector for 25-ish. That's, the synopsis of me and kind of my career path, I guess. I grew up in a house that was early adopters in the technology world. So I've always kind of been interested and exposed to technology and new kind of cutting edge things. So a hobby that kind of turned into something that I was actually able to make a career. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, incredibly cool. And one of the reasons I was excited to get you on here was to explore a little about data security fundamentals and so much more. And it's a huge topic right now. So Kurt, in your experience, what would you say are the most common oversights that even seasoned IT professionals make when it comes to data backup protocols? And are there any fundamental practices that they should be returning to? Because I suspect you've probably seen it all over the years.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, I'd have to say the most often neglected is adherence to the 3-2-1 strategy. We here at Apricorn, we do an annual survey, and our survey results just stand behind us. It says 93% of the respondents that we had say that they take backups into account as part of their cybersecurity strategy. But in practice, only 25% are actually following the 3-2-1 rule, which is a standard best practice. Now, 3-2-1 rule, obviously, it deals completely with backing up. You're making 3 copies of your data, you're putting in 2 different types of media, and you're putting 1 off site. So, adhering to that is a huge aspect that people are missing, even though they realize it is something that should be paying attention to. Also, cloud has become completely, it's in everybody's world. It's something very relied upon in the IT world, IT space. But part of that is also creating kind of a false sense of security and almost an over-reliance to the cloud and allowing IT professionals to become semi-complacent because they are putting so much emphasis and so much reliance on the cloud. And something that we like to talk about around here is resilience starts with redundancy, So having a clear resiliency plan that ensures that all members of your team know and understand that there's a clear chain of command. So, having that solid framework that you and your team you've put in place, your team knows about, and everybody's actually adhering to it. Very, very important for the IT world to do. Now we're also checking to ensure that plan is being followed through with frequent testing. So you've done the process of identifying that you need to do something, you put the plan in place, you now have your team bought into it. But if you're not testing to make sure that all that's working, you're also leaving the door open for for things to happen that you weren't prepared for because you haven't been testing to make sure it's working the whole time. Final piece of that is auditing exactly what data that you are backing up, and that it's not corrupted. The data, all this data that you're putting so much emphasis on, that data is clean and it's not being altered, and it doesn't have potential somebody in there rooting around.
And also, with the increasing complexity of security solutions, can I also ask you elaborate on how that complexity, in many cases, is actually hindering rather than helping organisations? And also, what are the basic yet effective security measures that businesses are neglecting? Again, very similar theme around that complexity versus simplicity in security that gets missed.
Certainly, Neil. With data coming from increasing sources that you mentioned, we're getting data in from emails. We have tons of different apps that we're running, whether it's on different devices. We have messaging apps. And most companies don't even know where all that sensitive data is being stored. So I think one of the statistics I read is almost most companies can't identify where 40% of their sensitive data is actually being stored. That's a huge portion. The average large corporation is using over 40 different security tools on average. That's, you have all these different subscription services and tools that you're using. That's 40 different on average that they have within their, under their auspices. That actually is creating an environment that could be less safe and more vulnerable to attacks, even though what they're doing is trying to close off all the gaps. They're actually creating more vectors. And then the most secure plan is the one that you have buy-in from all of your members. You find that with these increasing complex solutions, that some of the team members may avoid certain solutions. They may find them a little difficult to use, or it just takes away from the current workflow that they're kind of accustomed to, if you would. And they just go back to relying on the unsecure, less secure workarounds. So if you don't have buy-in from the team that actually is using the solutions you're putting in front of them, you're also causing an issue. And then, really the measures you want to take to make sure you're covering yourself. Well, first, you want to make sure you're getting 100% buy-in from the members. Again, if they are going to a non-secure solution because the solution you put in front of them is not ideal for them, you're already creating a hole. You need to know what and where the sensitive data that you're backing up or that you have, need to know where that is and what it is that you're trying to protect. Next step, you need to make sure you're encrypting it. You need to make sure that is protected, and that if somebody does get to it, that you have put a wall in front of them that they can't get to the data easily. And that control access to the data, ensuring that you know who is accessing the data and preventing those who shouldn't have access from getting to it.
And when attempting to balance cloud and hardware, before you came on the podcast, I was also reading that you advocate for a more complementary approach between cloud and hardware for secure storage. So can you discuss the synergy between those two mediums and how companies can better maybe leverage this to enhance their data security?
No, absolutely. As we all know, cloud is here to stay. It's not some kind of fly-by-night technology that is people are still trying to figure out. We're using the cloud. Everybody is using the cloud to some extent, whether that's personally or within their work environment. Most small tech companies and enterprises, they're utilizing the cloud. So the inherent issues with the cloud still stand, though. Things you have to think about: who is the company hosting that data? Where are they located? Who has access and who has access to that data? And, all that kind of stuff leads to the distrust you can have in the cloud because all these questions remain semi-unanswered. Then you also have to think about, these cloud hosting companies. They've been hacked. You have cloud service providers that go down occasionally, and facility damage and fires. There was the company in France, and I don't have the name on the top of my head, but they were a cloud hosting company. They had a building catch on fire, and it destroyed all the servers inside and all the data. They had redundancy, but it was backed up on site. So both the buildings burned down and wiped out everybody's data. So that kind of thing can happen if you don't know exactly where that cloud data is. So kind of the compliment is having a current backup of your data offline on encrypted drives can give you more peace of mind because you actually are physically holding that data. You are the one managing it. You are the one in control of it. And, it's much, as I said, it's a peace of mind knowing that you actually have that data on hand.
And at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned the 3-2-1 rule, which you see as the cornerstone of robust data management strategies. So I'm curious, how does Apricorn's technology facilitate that practice? And what are the challenges and equally opportunities businesses face in implementing this rule effectively?
Absolutely. Thanks, Neil. So as we talk about the 3-2-1 rule, I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of IT professionals recognize it is the best plan to have in place. But such a small percentage are actually taking the time to review the policies and procedures and put that strategy into place. So external encrypted products are a very effective tool for that strategy. As I said, with the 3-2-1 rule, you have 3 copies of your data on 2 separate types of media, and one being off-site or away from where you're storing everything. So the external encrypted storage allows you to have that second type of media, which allows the team to keep a copy physically off-site. It's a great component to the 3-2-1 strategy.
And for many leaders listening, managing their cloud costs is an increasing significant concern for their business right now. So on that side of things, how would you say organizations can better balance the operational costs of cloud services with that security and accessibility of hardware solutions too? Because I would imagine it's quite a balancing act.
Oh, absolutely. Great question. So, let's face it, the growing use of the cloud is only adding growing costs to users. More and more data is being added through, as I mentioned, all the things earlier, virtual machines, storage, network traffic, web services, and all the different software that a company is running. That's just increasing more spend to house all that data because you are creating so much. So having an external hardware solution that allows you to back up or store some of that data offline, pull it away from the cloud, allows you to cut down on those costs because you're not, you're bringing the volume of the data down, and most of these cloud service providers are charging a monthly fee per terabyte. So this is allowing companies to bring their costs down by keeping data away from the cloud.
And in terms of archiving practices, are there any advantages of moving unused data off the cloud and into more physical storage? And how does that transition contribute to both cost savings and data security? Again, another big Pandora's box there too, right?
Certainly. Yeah. Just as I mentioned, any data in the cloud, it's creating overhead for these companies.
Yeah.
So as long what needs to be done is auditing. You got to make sure what is being stored is being audited, and what's being stored. And auditing that is a huge and certainly a very necessary endeavor for these companies and corporations to take on. Done well, and the company is able to realize a significant savings in cloud cost, but also the less data they have up in the cloud, the less it's exposed to vulnerabilities and attacks.
And if we just mention encrypted solutions quickly there, what would you say are the barriers to the adoption of things like encrypted hard drives and flash drives in organizations? And how are you working to overcome some of these challenges? Because again, quite a big battle sometimes.
Oh, it absolutely is. Being in this space for I've been at the company 21 years. Apricorn's been in business for 40. I feel fairly confident knowing the USB market. And USB storage has been blind for a number of years now, and to some extent, rightfully so. Most of your audience will be aware of Trojan horse attacks done by strategically dropping USB devices in places where people will come across them and blindly plug them into a USB port to figure out what's on them. And off they are, up and running, whatever malware attack they want. It's really hard to go, for an IT professional, it's hard to control what goes on to USB devices. It's hard to know what is getting pulled off of them. It's really impossible to know where they're being connected to when they leave the premises. So with that regard, a lot of IT companies actively shut down user access to the USB ports. So in order to combat that, because we do understand the problems that these products have, we've worked very diligently in ensuring that our products meet or exceed requirements set forth by NIST with their FIPS standards. We've also spent a lot of time, effort, and money in making sure that our products go through third-party penetration testing. And ultimately, we feel like we are providing the most secure product that we can. The other aspect of our product is just how easy it is to use. Our designs are completely software free, which most companies have a person or group that still have a case for external storage. They need to still have the ability to maybe use a product for SneakerNet. They have air gap machines that they have to plug units into and get data off of, or put data on. So by giving them a secure option that is super easy to use, they don't have to load any software, and you're not compromising the business continuity by forcing them away from USB. We feel that our product allows them to move forward with using USB storage in that environment still, and feel like they can do it in a secure manner.
And 2024 is officially just a few weeks ago, so I would love to ask you to look into our virtual crystal ball, maybe explore the future of data security for a moment. So looking forward, how do you see the evolution of data security practices in the face of emerging threats and emerging technologies? And what role do you think hardware encryption will ultimately play in this new landscape too?
It's crazy how fast time flies. Yeah. But yes, here we are. So Neil, threats to our data are only going to continue, and they're going to morph and gain in sophistication. The hackers are very incentivized to continue going after this stuff. As the adage is, hackers only need to get lucky once. And so it's a numbers game for them. They're coming after everybody. Doesn't matter his size. A lot of people feel like they are not a target for a hacker, but they're looking for everybody. So where we're seeing the sheer volume and number of attacks are just increasing on a scale that it's hard to comprehend. So with more and more data being generated and stored, and we're scrambling to try to secure every angle using increasing number of tools and services, hardware encrypted products are likely going to stay around as a bit of a bit player. Cloud is going to continue being where probably the bulk of data gets stored. But there's, again, what I mentioned earlier, is there's still a certain distrust in cloud providers. There are continued hacks on them, and all these security service providers that these IT professionals are relying on. So if you have a physical backup of your sensitive data that has no access to data without having an internet connection, or the correct PIN for that device, you're pretty safe. And if it's not plugged into unlocked or internet-enabled machine, there's no way for a hacker to access it all. So again, if you have physical backup on an encrypted device, and you own that possession, it's hard not to feel pretty safe in that data.
Love that. And of course, we've talked about a very serious subject, and I always like to ask my guests, though, to leave everyone listening with a final gift. And that is, we have a Amazon wish list. I always ask my guests to leave a book that they'd recommend for other people to check out. So what book would you like to leave everyone listening with today?
So I took on the role that I'm currently in about 3 years ago, and I took it over from my previous manager who was a great guy. And so I went from being one of the sales team to managing some of my peers. A book that helped me kind of guide through the process of moving up to that role was a book by Jocko Willink called Leadership Strategy and Tactics, a field manual. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and he takes a lot of what he learned in the military and applies it to a corporate environment, and in terms of how to lead your team, how to take responsibility and ownership of various tasks. And I found it to be a great book to help kind of sort out my thoughts and processes. And it was a great thing to help me step into this role. So I'd have to put that one out to you.
Awesome. Great choice. I'm going to add it to our Amazon wish list. And for anyone that would just like to find out more information about your work, maybe contact your team, etc., what website or URL would you like to point everyone listening to?
We can be easily found at www.apricorn.com. That's Capricorn without the C.com.
Fantastic. Is there a story behind the company name now? I feel there is. Is there a Capricorn link or something else?
Neil, there is. So the owners of the company, so we started in March of 1983. So we're coming up on, very shortly we'll be on our 41st anniversary. And the owners were Apple-centric guys, and it was kind of an amalgamation of two company names that they liked, and they just blended them together and it became Apricorn.
Brilliant. Love it. What a great story. And I love chatting with you today. We covered so much there, from getting security practices back to basics and how it's not a choice between cloud and hardware for secure storage. They actually complement each other, especially when using best practices like that 3-2-1 rule that you mentioned there. 3 copies of data on 2 different formats with 1 stored offsite and encrypted. Fantastic advice, but just thank you for sharing that with me today.
I really appreciate you having me on, Neil. You've been great. And anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
So that was Kurt Markley from Apricorn, shedding light on the essential yet often overlooked aspects of data security and backup protocols. And I think it's clear that simplicity combined with robust strategies like that 3-2-1 rule can significantly enhance data protection efforts. So Kurt, huge thank you for your insights and for reminding us that synergy between cloud and hardware storage, as well as the importance of balancing cost and security. And to everyone listening, hope this conversation empowered you to maybe re-evaluate and strengthen your data security measures. And on that journey, if you'd like to share anything with me, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, connect with me, but don't just hit follow or connect. Send me a little message that isn't a sales pitch, of course. Keep them coming in, but thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.